right, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, and I know on short notice, and I apologize for that. But I also wanted to just take a moment to let all of you know, I think that we would agree that this is a terribly grim day in our state, and I have some things that I want to say. In fact, I think I have some things that I need to say. Let me begin by expressing, if I can, some of the outrage and, yes, the fury that I am feeling, that so many of us are feeling. We are getting phone calls and we're getting emails from across the state right now. Understandably, they're worried, they're scared, and they want to know what we're doing about it. Once again, decent people all over our state are confronted by a truly heinous crime. I grieve for Mary Ellen Walsh, whose life was brutally ended while she did nothing more than go visit a friend and have coffee with her. And my heart goes out to Carol Larice, who was wounded. All over this state, thoughts and prayers are going out to both of these women, for their families and, yes, for their friends as well. It is as despicable to commit a crime against an elderly person as it is to commit a crime against a child. And yes, I am feeling furious. I am more angry than I can possibly tell you. But I am also governor of this state, and I will not act out of anger. What I am doing is telling you and every decent person in this state that I am also resolved. Connecticut will deal with this evil, and no other word is sufficient because it is evil that is confronting us. And here's what we're going to do. First, I am once again calling on the legislature to pass a 3 strikes bill. Now is the time to do it. No more excuses, no more rationalizations, no more. The suspect in these slayings was not paroled. Let me be very clear about that. He was not paroled. In fact, he was denied parole in 2006. He served the 8-year prison sentence that he was given by a judge and released on probation according to that sentence. But if ever there was a time for a 3 strikes law in Connecticut, I believe the time is now. We must be brutally clear. Yes, brutally clear. For crimes like this show that some people only understand brutality. If you commit 3 violent crimes in Connecticut, you will go to prison for the rest of your life, period. I am also calling for legislation that will cut through any problems that there may be with existing laws concerning the persistent offender law. It is simply this. If you commit a second subsequent sexual assault in Connecticut, your prison term and time will automatically increase by 50%. Automatically. No other issues have to be proved in court and no questions asked. In addition, it is clear that we have a continuing problem with identifying violent people who are most likely to reoffend. We took some very good steps back in January to strengthen the Board of Pardons and Paroles. Yet pre-sentence investigations, or PSIs as they are called, are sometimes waived on sex offenders. No more. I am calling for a requirement that PSIs be done in every case involving a sex offender. Before a judge sentences a sex offender to something less than the maximum penalty, I want the judge to know everything possible he or she can find out about this individual. And I am calling for a meeting this week with the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court, the Chief State's Attorney, and my commissioners from Public Safety and the Department of Corrections. To be blunt, we have laws on the books already that may not be being used or not used fully. I want to know what resources are needed to change that. Now, I'm going to take your questions in a few minutes, but let me finish my remarks by saying this. No law that we pass will stop all evil people from doing evil things. What we can do is take common sense steps to make our state safer, and we will. Thank you, and your questions.
It appears, Governor, that this individual would not have been affected by your 3 strikes law or anybody's 3 strikes law. He was accused of the sexual assault of a 5-year-old relative, and he was charged with 1st-degree sexual assault, but it was plead down to 2nd degree, and so he only got the 8 years.
He was also, prior to that, He was also charged in 2 burglaries that were plea bargained down from a tougher sentence to a lesser sentence. So that is correct. If he had not been there had not been a plea bargain, he would have been charged under would be the first offense. The sexual assault is a second offense, and this would be the third offense. But you are correct.
Well, obviously, this third one is going to be murder 1. We don't have to worry about him going away forever.
Well, this is, I hope you're correct, Mark.
Is that the problem then, the plea bargaining? I mean, in some cases it's needed, but are you finding, and I mean, I don't know for sure, that, I mean, these are people that maybe to keep them out of jails because we hear that the prisons are overcrowded, and I mean, is that what's going on?
I think that we have to look at the plea bargaining and decide whether or not it is appropriate. But once you've had someone who plea bargains down from a burglary 1 to a lesser offense, and then is subsequently brought back in on a different charge, in this case sexual assault on a 5-year-old child, I think if I were the judge, I'd like to be able to know that beforehand, maybe make that sentence a little bit stiffer that second time around. Also, we've heard a lot of talk about the persistent offender law. Tell me that this man doesn't qualify for the persistent offender law. What is the problem? And again, I think that we have to make sure that the information that the judges get is up to date and fully cognizant of everything that was in this person's background.
Governor, do you know if the judge in this case did have a PSI to read about
I
this
don't know.
this man?
I do not know. I'm sorry.
Are you asking for the files on this? Have you seen anything at this point?
I have not seen anything yet, and I know that the Department of Public Safety will be looking at everything. And by the way, I just want to say thank you to the Department of Public Safety. I was just talking to the mayor of New Britain, and I asked him to express my thanks as well to the New Britain Police Department. When you get something like this, you know, we know that it is a heinous crime. It's also a random crime. There's no rhyme nor reason to it. When somebody simply shows up and decides to kidnap a person, I mean, it's mind-boggling, and we wonder why people are afraid. It's the heinous crime that we see and witness, but it's just out of nowhere. But I did say to the mayor that his people really did a tremendous job, and I know that they acted, I will say, prudently and expeditiously in calling in the state police, who also did a marvelous job.
The thing is, I think you used the word devil or something?
Evil.
Evil. Is that what you believe? I mean, this guy was in a department that we call correction for 8 years. Wasn't the whole reason for changing the name from penal to correction back in the 1960s because we were trying to rehabilitate people who went to jail, to prison?
Mark, I couldn't agree more. But when I say there are evil people who will never change their ways, he had been accused, and I don't have the details in front of me, of doing things while he was in prison that, when I'm sure, would probably play into the record when he was asking for parole, the reason that he was not given a parole. And I think that was in 2006. You have individuals that frankly act in evil ways, and there are no other recourses for us than to, I believe, lock these individuals up.
Are you looking into whether or not he was properly monitored while on probation?
The probation, actually he was just out on probation as part of this, and the Judicial Department will be explaining and whether or not they feel that he had proper oversight or not.
Because it was told that he did make at least 5 visits to his probation officer.
Okay.
But does your information that he was supposed to be wearing a bracelet or something?
He did not have a requirement for a bracelet.
No.
In 2008, are you saying we still, at this point in time, do not have a good system at all to know who is going to reoffend? I mean, does there need to be more analysis?
This is one of the things that I have said. We're looking to see what resources we need, if additional resources are required. And that's one of the reasons for the meeting with the Chief Justice and others this week. If there's something else that we can do to make sure that we're either capturing these individuals and their attention while in prison, or once they are released, what is available to us to have. Those are some of the things that we will be asking and looking at. The other thing I want to say is, in the budget that was just passed by the Appropriations Committee, they took away the funding for the GPS monitoring system, or at least part of it. I am going to ask that that be reinstated. This is not again, there's a difference between parole and there's a difference between probation. He was on probation. But if you're going to monitor someone and they need to have an ankle bracelet, we need to have the funds in place to make sure that that is done.
Let's go back to Susan's